All right, hello everybody. I'm here tonight with Keith Reynolds. Keith, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm good. Thanks for being on. Really excited that you're here and really excited about this interview because, we're going to really highlight how Synapse is using Convene, but really more importantly, we're going to talk about what Synapse is. And we're actually going to get into how you and I met each other and how that synergism was right there. So talk about, introduce yourself and then introduce Synapse and what you do.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, my name's Keith Reynolds. I founded Synapse back officially October of 2013. Synapse is kind of a unique networking organization that focuses on creating connections and collaboration between the nonprofit community and the small business community. So yeah, it's been more of an experiment over the last 10 years than a business in many ways, in my opinion, but it's been quite the journey. My background was in banking, and in banking, I was forced to do a lot of networking. And as an introvert with what's called social anxiety disorder, the idea of networking was pretty horrifying, and I pretty much hated it from the jump. But just kind of using my own passions and my purpose for having to network while I was doing it in the first place back in the day. I came up with some kind of unique ways of approaching it. And ultimately, years later, when I finally decided I was no longer a banker and I was more of a connector and a networker, Synapse kind of burst into my vision, into my brain, when I met a Scottish gentleman at a networking meeting back in 2012. And it sparked what is now the Synapse concept. So it's been a long journey, no doubt about it. And obviously, everything we did before the pandemic was completely in person, but we were, of course, changed when that happened to us all, many of us. But it's been one of the coolest things I could ever imagine doing. It's allowed me to connect with so many like-minded people, so many passionate, purpose-driven people and professionals, not only on a local level, but now around the world. And that's one of the reasons I got connected to you, Matt. So I'm just really grateful that Lisa made that thoughtful connection, as we say, and sparked that conversation. And yeah, it took longer than I would have liked, but I'm so eager to really get rolling with using Convene every day and introducing it to every one of our members now and going forward.
Yeah, so many of you know watching that that the tagline behind Convene, one of the taglines is connect, communicate, collaborate, and educate. So Keith, why don't you tell me your tagline?
The original tagline it's been connect, collaborate, contribute. Yeah, so it was the color scheme too. It's like, a little different blue, a little different gray, but it's like, what's going on, man? I don't know who was copying who. Somebody was copying somebody.
Exactly. But we came together and that was really one of our first conversations. We came on the call and we were like, all right, this is a little weird, we got almost the same tagline going on there, got almost the same colors going on. And really, we had the same belief system. That's really what's more important to me. So talk about that a little bit, because, you have a heart for nonprofits and helping nonprofits. So talk about that.
Yeah. So, one of the things I learned in banking is that nonprofits are businesses. We didn't give loans to nonprofits for free. They had to cash flow. They had to show numbers. They had to be businesses, right? So, when I was doing the networking thing, it was interesting that I found that a lot of people in the small business world, in kind of the traditional networking scene around Richmond, Virginia, they really didn't see a nonprofit in that light. They saw them as charities begging for money, and not so much as businesses or potential partners or collaborators or neighbors, right? And that really struck me at that time because of all my time working with them in the banking industry. So yeah, our concept is on really trying to get folks to understand that, hey, first, nonprofits are businesses, but also they're resources. And the more we understand what they do, why they do it, their mission, their purpose, the boards behind them, the volunteers behind them, the more we have the potential to connect them appropriately and introduce them appropriately. And I always found that as a banker, the more I knew about the nonprofits in my community, the more I could support my clients, because, hey, I've got clients that are coming to me and saying, hey, I need this loan because I need you to put a renovation, over on this side of the house, or I got to, build an apartment above the garage because I'm moving my mom in with Alzheimer's, that type of a story. And recognize that, hey, I can build these personal relationships with these nonprofits that can be very valuable to connect to my clients in those times of need was a powerful thing. So that was kind of the beginning for me, at least understanding a little bit more about how nonprofits fit into our community and fit into the networking game. The Synapse concept was really built on the fact that, hey, there's a lot of networkers out there that don't like networking because of certain things they've been thrust into, forced to attend, forced to participate in. And I found that, really those folks that are on boards that are serving nonprofits with their time, volunteering, donating, sponsoring, whatever, usually we're doing it for very selfless reasons, very caring, heartfelt reasons that could be a little different than the average Joe networker, if you will. And simply by finding these dynamic, passionate, purpose-driven nonprofit leaders in my community and partnering them with or connecting them with, passionate, purpose-driven professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners that needed to network, wanted to network, really created this interesting synergy between those two pieces to the puzzle that is Synapse. And that's really kind of a game that we play. It's about matchmaking that person who needs to network, wants to network with that nonprofit they have a heart for, and showing how they can work together and actually benefit from networking together in a very unique way.
So how'd you start? Where'd you start?
We started officially piloting the concept in 2012. So the first pilot meeting we ever ran was with Goodwill Industries, and everybody knows Goodwill. I mean, they're one of the bigger names out there in terms of nonprofits in our communities, and they do great work, but they certainly are on the larger scale of many of the nonprofits that many of us might be familiar with on a local level. We started piloting. We ran a couple at, let's say, Big Brothers Big Sisters, at Junior Achievement, I want to say. I know we did one with the Junior League here in the Richmond area, but I was early on introduced to the CEO of the Richmond Metropolitan Habitat for Humanity, Jane Helfrich. So this was probably, August, September of 2013. And I met with Jane and explained the vision and the concept. And she was very well respected in the nonprofit space in Richmond, and everybody knows Habitat because that's another one of those kind of big international brands that everybody's somewhat familiar with. But she loved the concept. She invited us to run a pilot at Habitat headquarters in Richmond, and we ran one in September. And after that particular meeting, she was so blown away. She said, loved it. My only complaint is we don't already have this on our calendar for next Friday. I want to do this every Friday morning from our headquarters. So Synapse was officially born because of her faith in us and her belief in the concept and the model. And at the time, I was actually still in banking because I had taken a job with a small community bank to essentially test the concept and make money without having to rely on a small, brand new startup business to pay my bills. So I had the banking salary and the benefits, and the bank realized the value of supporting nonprofits in our community. So we started in October of 2013 with the first ever Synapse Hub, Hub 001 at Richmond Metro Habitat, with me as the original hub honcho, as we now call him. I was a hub leader at the time, representing Middleburg Bank and needing to network, but wanting to raise awareness for and support my friend Jane and Habitat for Humanity. So we started just by running a weekly meeting every Friday for an hour and a half at the Habitat headquarters, squashed a bunch of misunderstandings, misperceptions about Habitat, and started to create a real following and support system for them. Because once people heard from Jane directly, with her passion and her fire for what they did and how they did it, it really did kind of steer people to support, because it was like, wow, I thought I knew Habitat because everybody knows Habitat, but I didn't realize this, or I didn't know this. So a lot of people's minds were changed, and they suddenly in that moment wanted to find a way to give back or support. So we saw very early on with the model that even with a very recognizable nonprofit brand, there was a lot of value they could receive by just having a flow of passionate, purpose-driven professionals coming through their office on a weekly basis for our concept and for our agenda.
Yeah. So why do people misunderstand, and how are you different when it comes to networking? Because I would agree with you. People just misunderstand the concept, which is very important. Basically, I mean, that's what we're doing on this call, right? We're networking, we're getting together. So talk about that a little bit. And
Well, it was mainly
why business to nonprofit, and how that works.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it was more specific to like people misunderstanding habitat, like not knowing that habitat actually, made the people they were serving like buy the house. They had to earn it, right? It wasn't just, oh, you're poor, here's a free house. And that was unfortunately what a lot of people assumed. So once people realized that it was more of this, oh, it's a hand up, not a hand out, as Jane used to always say, it changed people's feelings about the whole nonprofit in general. And it was like, okay, I didn't like the idea of just giving people houses for free, but the fact that they have to earn it, they have to put in sweat equity, they have to buy it and have a mortgage, and all those things kind of change those perceptions. So that's one thing. But then when it comes to networking, really what it comes down to, I think for us relative to some of the others, is that, a lot of people assume that networking is this thing that you got to show up and you've got to give the perfect elevator speech, and it's all about selling. It's all about trying to, at every meeting you go to, find a new client, sell somebody a product so that you can say that it was worth your time. And, our approach has always been unique and different in the sense that, hey, the true value of Synapse is more of kind of the long burn, slow burn approach, where instead of expecting that immediate gratification when you show up to one meeting, it's more about, hey, the value here is the connections, the resources I'm going to get a chance to get to know, connect with, and potentially spark new relationships with, that can be valuable connections and resources for me to share, not just with myself, my neighbors, my friends, my family, but my clients. It gives you a better way to serve the clients that trust you and come to you for advice, for things outside of your area of expertise. So I've always said that, networking really gets a bad name because a lot of people aren't comfortable showing up to these networking meetings feeling like they're just going to be forced to buy something, or there's going to be this pressured sales environment. We really wanted to flip that upside down and create a different environment that, didn't really make you feel that way, that allowed you to feel like you were around other like-minded folks that cared about community. And yeah, they needed to make money, but more importantly, whatever it is they were doing to make money was truly a passion and a purpose, rather than just a job to make money, right? A means to an end. So we really do focus on a certain type of human being as opposed to a certain type of professional, because we don't really care what you do, but we really care about who you are.
Yeah. Before we get into talk about some of the hubs, I want to hit on this. I come into some of the Synapse meetings and speak for you and do all that. But one of the things I found interesting is that you are organizing a volunteer day, basically, that coming up across the board. Like, talk about that a little bit, because that's kind of the heart and soul of what Synapse is too.
Yeah, one thing that we really have been conscious of from day one was that we didn't want to make anybody feel like they had to do anything. So we have a very organic approach. So it's not like, hey, if you can't come to a meeting, we're not going to force you to. If you don't want to donate money or you don't want to volunteer, we're not here to force you to, but we want to excite you to do those types of things, to find how you can make contributions, not just to a nonprofit, but to the Synapse community, to the members of any given hub. So naturally, one of the many ways that we can give back in our societies, in our communities, is to volunteer our time, right? To share our expertise, or just our ability to go out and, do physical labor, or, support in other creative ways. Serve beer. I mean, how hard is that, right? I got to go to a concert and serve beer, but I'm helping a cause. So, it's really trying to find those win-win scenarios. But, we've always kind of encouraged each of our individual hubs that are obviously built around different nonprofits to come up with creative ways for the whole network to rally around their particular nonprofit and their goal to serve them. So we do what we call Synapse Serve sessions, which really are our volunteer kind of brand. And that's how we get people to, go out together to make new connections, to network, but more importantly, to volunteer their time and expertise to serve some of the many of the nonprofits we work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of cool. So let's talk about some, just give us some examples of some of the nonprofits or some of the businesses that serve nonprofits. Talk a little bit about that. Because you're not just local, you're across the country and the world.
Yeah, no, it's wild how it's expanded, obviously. But yeah, I mean, going back to Habitat for Humanity, I mean, they're an easy one, right? We all know Habitat's got plenty of volunteer opportunities. So, with that particular hub that has still been around almost, it'll be 10 years here in October that we've had this active original hub, who now has a new leader who is a financial advisor that's been with Synapse for 8 years, Ashby Price. So he's one of those guys that kept showing up, wanted to serve, wanted to support, knew that, hey, I may or may not get the business today, but I'm not here for that. I'm here to serve. And it's funny how, over the course of years, we've done a lot of Habitat builds, opportunities for us to, as a hub, get to know each other more and then bring in other folks from the community and from the network. But Ashby, just because of that consistency, ended up earning the business. Ended up, getting a very nice opportunity to do some financial service business with the Richmond Habitat office. And, again, that wasn't his goal, but it was because he kept showing up. He obviously ended up kind of overtaking his competitor, if you will, who may have done the business before, because he was showing up in a different way, in a different capacity, with no strings attached. Chesterfield Food Bank or Chesterfield Food Bank Outreach Center. There are Hub 24. So they are actually the original Hub 24. They've been around for many years with us now. They're an easy one to support. They've got Friday night distribution nights. So every Friday night, every other Friday night, they are doing a distribution where they're giving food to community members there in the Chesterfield, Chester County area of the Virginia area here around Richmond. And, it's an easy way for us to just show up and help, fill up these carts and, put food in people's cars. So those are just a couple examples of ways that some of the hubs kind of rally around the cause. But, the whole thing for us is always understanding, like, just like in the small business community, you've got a real diverse mix of types of businesses. Same thing in the nonprofit world. And, everybody's got certain things that they really care about. Some people care less about kids or human beings because they're all about the animals. Just give me an animal. I want to serve every animal, any of the adoption agencies or whatever. You've got folks that are like, no, I'm all into veteran causes, or I'm into housing, stability. I'm into food insecurity. I'm into entrepreneurship. There's so many different ways to kind of get involved in the nonprofit sector when you really open your eyes to the fact that, hey, they all are just like businesses. They're doing a bunch of different things. And many of them are started or sparked by an entrepreneur type person, somebody that had a vision, a dream, and wants to make a difference in their communities. And it's just a tax designation. That's all it really is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so cool. And I mean, like I said, we're so alike and similar. Convene is Convene Communities, but we're Convene Connections Corporation. We're a public benefit corporation, and our goal is to help nonprofits and to allow nonprofits to use the site for free. And that was another way that you and I were totally in alignment with each other and all that. And so it's pretty cool that we have the same thought process there.
No doubt at all.
Yeah. No, I think it's really cool what you're doing. I mean, and you're all the way in Ireland, you're all the way across the United States. And so the goal here is to, let's see if we can expand it and use a Synapse community to provide some infrastructure to what you're all already doing. I mean, you're doing it out in the community, but now you're bringing it in. So talk a little bit about your thought process of the why behind bringing Synapse into Convene.
For years, it was always that, hey, we've got to figure out how to create some type of custom, software, some custom platform where we can bring all of our folks together. I was never a Facebook guy, but when Synapse started to take off in the early years, we realized very quickly that Facebook was a game changer for us. We could set up all of these events that we could circulate around Facebook. We could set up groups so that we could literally have each of our hub as their own hub group where they can connect and they can collaborate and they can contribute to each other's missions and goals and keep the conversation flowing. But the truth is, over the course of time, with any of the social media things that are out there, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, they're constantly making rules on their own. They're changing things, and it can get frustrating because not everybody wants to use those platforms or any specific one of them. And of course, with the changes, you have no control over anything. So ultimately, you just have to adjust as you go on the fly. And some of that can be very frustrating, not just for me and kind of the ownership team, but certainly for the members that have to feel like they're learning something new every other week with a new upgrade or a new change. So we always knew we wanted something that we could really have as kind of this kind of added value, members only portal that gave folks access to the entire network and to a variety of perks and access to benefits and other information. And we invested heavily back in 2018 in trying to create kind of our own custom portal. And ultimately, over the course of time, while it's been extremely amazing for us, it got very cost prohibitive very quickly. And it got to a point where every time we turn around, it was another security feature that was going to cause this huge, price jump, or, in order to really be able to have it do what we needed, it was going to be another huge investment that we just weren't really feeling we could continue to bite off and manage. And it got very frustrating over time, feeling like we were so close and we invested so much money and time in creating this custom platform for our membership, but then to feel like we're constantly disappointing everybody because we could never quite get it to where we needed it to be. So when I obviously got introduced to you, Matt, and I saw what you were doing and, realized just first of all, how generous you've been with just offering this to nonprofits, but more specifically to see exactly how you've created it in a very similar way to kind of that Facebook, LinkedIn group kind of mindset, with more bells and whistles, more features, the ability to kind of, do things anonymously. All of those factors really played into making it very clear to me that it was a no-brainer, that, working with you, bringing our network to the Convene platform, allowing them to use this as that custom software that we've always needed and have just never quite found. It was huge. It's been huge. So like anything else, the challenge is getting, herding the cats, getting everybody to buy into it and, click the button, because sometimes that's all it is.
Yeah.
But the reality is we know that everything you've been doing and everything that you have provided us access to is exactly what my vision's always shown me. This is what we've needed for the longest time. So it's really just tightening some screws, making some adjustments, and ultimately hitting the ground running when we get everybody on board and show everybody this beautiful platform that can not only help them with their Synapse activity and the management of their hubs and going and seeing all the other hub activities and what's going on with all the groups in our membership, but also to be able to open the door to other groups within the Convene community, other communities, right? And to be able to make sure our nonprofit partners are tapping into the true value of this for their own needs outside of Synapse alone.
Yeah. So two things is first, Convene's just a resource. You said it, right? And I'm so glad you said it like that, because I want people to understand we've created the resource for you to take and run with, whether it's your business as an entrepreneur, content creator, or it's somebody like you who's, Synapse, who's out there and growing something special, that networking type of environment where you need to grow a community around what you're doing. So that's one of my struggles, is getting people to understand that, hey, this is just a resource. Use the resource and make it work for what you're doing. So that's really good. And I think that, the point about no algorithms, we're working together to build your infrastructure, and if we can build that infrastructure, we can help you grow, but we meet each other's needs, right? Because the ultimate goal of Convene is to bring in nonprofits. Well, then we're a business, right? So we're basically like a hub, and we're going to keep working on that. Well, we are a hub, but we're also working with you and pushing, the nonprofit, because that's your specialty. That's what you do, So that marriage is really good, in the long run.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's perfect. So look, I really appreciate you. That's a good overview. I'm excited about this weekend. You'll be here for Convene 23. You're one of the speakers this coming up weekend. You excited about that?
I'm super stoked, man. Yeah, I got a whole crew coming down. So yeah, I'm thrilled. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I'm gonna hit the road early on Friday, make sure I'm down there for all the festivities and take full advantage of it.
Yeah.
But if I could, Matt, one thing I thought I'd share before you kind of transition us out is one thing that's really important, I think, for everybody in Convene to understand about kind of our process, because Synapse is not for everybody, and we're not trying to sell our product, our membership to everybody at all. But we call it Hub 007. And for those of you, and when they really love what we were doing, people would say, well, hey, I love this.
Hey, Keith, hold on one second. You're freezing up on it.
I'm on the board of this other nonprofit. Maybe you didn't really know at the time what we're doing. Oh, sorry. I apologize. I don't know why my internet's acting weird.
Yeah, you froze up just a little bit. So kind of start that part over again, if you don't mind.
We good?
Actually, you're still freezing. So hold on. See if you come back. All right. He's frozen.
Yeah. Sorry.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry,
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know what happened, but you ended up freezing. You're still kind of frozen on my end. He'll be back. There we go. You back? How about
I'm
now?
here. I don't know what's going on. It says it's full, but obviously it's not.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we turn everybody's camera on, and then we'll just get everybody back going, and then we can say that. We'll get you turned back on and get you live. If I turned you off, I know I did turn a couple off. Just ask me and I'll turn you back on. And then we'll get, I know Tom, I turned him off. Anybody else want to turn their camera back on and jump on? If I turned you off, let me know. Who else did I turn off? Somebody jumped on.
Can you hear me all right, man?
Yeah, you're still kind of in and out, but we'll get you to say what you were saying. I know you're talking about Hub 007 there.
Yeah, I don't know why this is acting up. I apologize. Normally, internet, I never really have issues here.
Yeah. Let me turn Brenda on. I know I asked. All right. So I know we can't see you, but go ahead and say something and keep talking about Hub 007s and all that real quick.
Yeah. So if you can hear me all right, Hub 007 really has become kind of our way of piloting our concept. And the whole thing is to spotlight any nonprofit anywhere around the world. So the process is simple. If anybody has a nonprofit they have a heart for, that they have a relationship with, and they'd like to spotlight them, then they introduce them to us. We run this Hub 007 with them, and there's no cost, there's no expectation for them to join. It allows us to give them our platform and to allow them to share their mission with a captive audience of folks from all over our network and beyond. And this whole process sparks the potential for new hubs around the community, which is why we established ourselves in Belfast, Northern Ireland, why we are in Denver, Colorado, Charlotte, North Carolina, and various other places that we've created some momentum. So that's something you should know, because it's free, it's easy, and this is how we really want to support Convene and all the nonprofits you guys work with, by just offering these to them and seeing how we can create some value out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to ask two people to speak on that that are a part of Synapse. So one is a member and one is a hub honcho. So Josh, why don't you talk as a hub honcho real quick?
Yeah, I'll say that obviously being a part of Synapse for many years, Keith was talking about way back in the day, I was at an Alzheimer's Association meeting back in Charlottesville. It's probably 8 or 9 years ago, Keith. But yeah, I think it's a great match, obviously, for the Convene platform. But being a hub honcho is something cool. I mean, it's you get to those of you guys that are on here know I like to be the boss, so I get to be the boss. Keith is giving me those reins to be the boss of the hub. But the idea of BNI or the idea of networking not only scares people, but it's very in order to coming to those meetings, but it's also very intimidating when you feel obligated to come to those meetings and how many referrals are we going to give? Do we have to give 2? Do we have to give 3? And the cool part with Synapse is that's where that is organically done. We're there for the nonprofit. So I think that's what Keith has done is a lot like what we're doing here with Convene, and it's super cool to be a part of. I've been a hub honcho for almost a year. I've been a part of Synapse for probably 4 years in a hub, and it's really cool to see the connections that are able to be made with Synapse. Whether it's we've got we have a Synapse baby on the way. We've got people networking to get organs. We've gotten, leads and those sort of things that have come about and, manifested themselves because of the connections with Synapse. It's very cool to be a part of.
Yeah. How about you, Laurel?
I can say, right. Well, I'm a bit newer. I joined up this fall after kind of testing it out a little bit in the late summer. And I can just say that the members of Synapse have been really helpful and really kind to me. I have not been a part of other business networking, opportunities outside of Synapse, just because I'm kind of new to this whole thing. But, I arrived in Charlottesville and have made friends through being a part of Synapse. So I am grateful. They make it easy to, join. And, I do have part-time jobs, so I can't make all the meetings. And Keith just works with me and makes sure that I'm getting my membership worth. And if it weren't for Synapse, I wouldn't be at Convene. So it's been a very positive experience for me all the way around.
Yeah, y'all beat me to it, but because I was on Synapse meetings, and that's how I met Josh, and that's how I met Laurel. And I shot them a message during the meeting, and we talked, and that's why those two individuals right there are community leaders with inside of Convene, and it's all thanks to Keith and what he's doing with Synapse. So Keith, I'll let you get the last words about this before I stop the recording.
No, I appreciate Laurel and Josh, obviously, for being all in. I'm sorry here for the internet kind of failing us. This is always so frustrating, but it's something we've had to adjust to, obviously, since the pandemic hit. Because I remember those first meetings we had to run virtually, and it was awkward because I had never done it for all those years. But it has really been the silver lining, because the fact that we can now spotlight dynamic nonprofit leaders anywhere in the world, there really are no borders. It's pretty wild. It's pretty amazing. And that's what makes this so much fun. And to watch how Josh has kind of been, transitioning away from his day-to-day as the insurance guy, and he's traveling around the world more and more with all of his followers. It's exciting to be right there and to be like, no, really, like, we can go to Belfast. I was just there in March. We can go to Denver. I was there last year, and we're planning a safari trip in Uganda right now because one of our members has decided to go over there and start a school, the first unit of justice school over there, because of connections made on our platform. So really, yeah, the sky's the limit. But it's a real honor to work with somebody like you, Matt, and to be able to share this platform with so many amazing people. I'm just grateful. So thank you for your belief, for your faith in our concept. And I'm just looking forward to getting down there and meeting many of you guys in person.
Absolutely. You're gonna meet about 5 or 6 of people that are on this call tonight. So it's gonna be fun. So thank you so much for being on and talking about that. And look forward to meeting you this weekend.